Hi, I'm Dean, this is Woodwork Journey, and it's been a minute since the last video and we've had a bit of a change around in the workshop, but today I'm going to do something that's going to help me for filming. But before you go, don't leave, it could also benefit you when it comes to being able to see what you're doing in your own workshop, and it's not changing the big lights up here. This is something that is essentially super cheap to do and hopefully will be super easy. Let's get into it. What I've got going on here is the four main lights, the LED strip lights that I can turn on and off as I want to, which is great, and it gives me a fairly good amount of light in here when I want it. Behind me is a blind that opens to the outside world. Now then, when I open that blind to the outside world, the problem is it's awfully bright and you can't control that. So having a controllable light source is great when you're filming. Equally though, if you're turning, if you're, I don't know, making dovetails and you're like my age or older and your eyesight's not too clever, and you need more light on a situation, rather than getting kind of desk lights and all this sort of stuff, I'm hoping that this is going to be a way that you can make your own. And the way I'm going to do that is by doing what one of my favourite YouTube channels, DIY Perks, has done, and that is using an old and knackered TV. This one I picked up on Marketplace for nothing because it doesn't work anymore, and I'm going to use this as a light source because of what's going on inside it, and I'll tell you more about that when we get in there. I must mention that this one is huge. You don't need a huge one. You can use like a tiny little computer monitor and all sorts of things that you can pick up for free. Like I say, this was free, but you can use TVs, monitors, whatever you like. Anyway, let's get on with it. So first things first, we've got to take this bad boy apart, which should be fairly straightforward. I imagine most TVs are probably fairly similar, and you just got to take out all of the screws you can find, apparently. Right, so that's still the, oh, there we go, that's that bit. Now, depending on how long this has been not used, the capacitors on the board may still hold a charge, so you don't want to touch anything that's on either of the boards, really, if you can help it. So, you know, just make sure that, yeah, you don't just start popping your hands everywhere. Now, I don't know of a way of being able to reuse these circuits, so these are going to be separated up and chucked, but taken to the dump bin and disposed of appropriately. We're not going to be using any of these parts, but I'm taking them apart before I take them off, just in case there's something that I find later in the build that makes something usable. Okay, so that's the main electrics part and the dodgy stuff, as far as I know, out the way. Now it's a case of just undoing any other screw you can see. Now, this telly does have some speakers. Hopefully they're in shot, and I think I might be able to reuse these speakers for another project. I can't see a separate subwoofer or anything, but yeah, I think these will be able to be reused for another thing. So I'm going to not break these. What we've got there is those two little bad boys. They might make a part of a little Bluetooth stereo or something. Here's Pepsi. Don't look too bothered, dear. Right. What are we doing? Hey? Okay, now there are some snaps around the outside of the frame that need pulling off. Alrighty then, so the frame can come off like so. I don't know whether we'll be able to reuse that again. And then we've got the LCD, which is this panel. And how a telly works is there's a bright light behind it, and what goes on with the LCD is it opens up certain aspects of light within those squares within the pixels, and so this lights up those pixels, and that's what you see. So when a backlight on a TV is knackered, then it's going on behind here, not this LCD panel. So this LCD panel might be okay, but I don't know. Now, this is the stuff that we are interested in, and the reason for that is because it's very, very special. There's another frame here, which I'm going to get off as well. Okay, so what we've got in here, we have a diffuser, we have a Fresnel layer, which makes it look as though the light is coming from much further back. And this Fresnel layer is the main reason that we want this, because it's going to make sure the light is dispersed rather than being kind of really pointed. And we've got another diffusion section there, and underneath that, these are all the individual LEDs that backlight your TV. We could look into this to see if we can figure out a way of powering these LEDs, but to be honest with you, if they're probably a bit knackered anyway, I'm not going to bother, because it's not going to be useful for me to do so. So yeah, because they're probably, some of them will work better than others, and because they're quite old, there's no point in trying to get them to work for this project. I might save them for a future project if I can get them powered up with various levels of stuff. So yeah, we'll keep hold of it and we'll worry about that another time. So these are the LEDs that I bought off Amazon. I think I paid about 25 quid for them. It's a full LED strip. It's COB lighting, which is pretty good. It's got a decent CRI, which is a color rendering index. Now that's important to me because I'm filming. However, if you're just using this for light, you don't have to worry as much about the CRI. But yeah, so these ones are a 5 meter strip. They come with the power supply and all that sort of stuff, and I will leave a link down below for that. But what I'm going to do essentially is I'm going to have the bottom poking out at the bottom of this. I was going to use a bit of wood or something instead of using this back piece because it would make it even thinner. However, I figured that using this aluminium is quite light, so that's good. It's relatively stable. The frame might still fit around the outside, and because it's silver on the inside of it, it might help boost even more light coming out of this. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to essentially just make this and stick these strips down in various lengths until I've used up the whole 5 meter roll. The back of this rather handily has holes, however the holes aren't big enough for that to go through, although now I've just just seen that I could have done it there. But I just made this hole a little bit bigger down the bottom there with a step bit, and that's just going to mean that that I've got access. A brief measure of the metal back means that we can cut this strip into 80 centimetre lengths, and that is pretty much where they have one of the little snip thingies, so that's good. And what you need to do is where you find the copper strips, you have to cut right in the middle of them, otherwise you won't have anything to solder any wire to. I do wonder whether I should use an additional sticky for this, but I'm going to go for it and see where we're at. I think that's pretty much the middle, so that's what we're going to go with, I think. Yeah, that looks about the middle to me. Right, so what I'm going to use is, my wife recently just picked up this from Parkside in Lidl for me, which is great because I didn't really fancy getting my full soldering gear out. So I'm going to use this for the first time and we'll see how we get on. This does soldering, blowtorch and heat torture as well, so you know that's good. I've already had some wire that I can use. Because we're looking at LEDs, we're not looking at vast amounts of power here, so that should be fine. So let's get into it. So what we've got there is it does say 240 and it's got a plus and a minus, and so we're going to connect up all the pluses and then we're going to connect up all the minuses. Haven't got any red or black, so we'll be using blue for the live and white for the negative. Okay, so what I want to do is just tin the ends of these wires. That nozzle wasn't screwed on tight. It is now. Right, are we warm yet? Yes. Where you've got a vent on the side of this, hot air does come out, so just be careful you don't burn yourself. I am in no way a quality solderer, but it's generally enough to get by. Right, I am going to be using a little flux pen. Is that going to focus? There we go. I'm going to use a little flux pen just so I can pop a little bit of flux on the end of each of these. Because we've got the metal background, that might work as a heatsink and be a little bit of a sod to solder to, but we will see. So it should be fairly straightforward, and just plus to plus and so on. Right, so don't look at the soldering because it's awful, but let's give this a test and see if it works. Have I got a plug nearby? Kinda. Woof, there we go. So if I turn that light off over here, that is super bright, which is just what we want. Lovely. Diffusion layer, that's going to go on there. Then we've got the Fresnel layer, which is to go on there, and then we have the final diffusion layer, which goes on there. Just found there are some little tabs there that might help us out. There too. Right, so that's that. And this is the final frame that was on the outside of the TV. And this is a light source. I can still see the lines in the LED lines in there, but don't think that's the end of the world. We do also have a remote control with this. Right, so the remote control works, and 25%, 50, 100. We don't look like we're flickering. Oh, well, that's good. That's good. Right, as you can see, I've got all the lights off in the studio other than the blue light behind me. So let's get this cracking. We've got that's now at 25%. So we've got that. That's at 50%. And now that's at 100%. So, I mean, I'm really close to it. So we've got to figure out exactly spacing and also how I'm going to mount it to the ceiling. But I think I've got a Vesa mount still. So I'm on the back of this, so I might be able to use that. If not, I'll figure something out. And I'm hoping that I can have some kind of flip down from the ceiling kind of situation, because it's very, very light. It's light. But that's about it. So hopefully you found this interesting. What I will do is I'll leave a link down below for the DIY Perks channel, who does this job properly, and I will also leave a link to these particular LEDs. I think if this, I mean, this is a big TV, but if I'd have used this amount of LEDs for like a half this size TV, so 28, 30 inch, 32 inch, something like that, it would have been fantastic. I think it would have been even better. But as for now, it's a big soft light, which I can use in various ways for video work, which I'm very, very happy with. And all it cost me was 20 quid for a strip of LEDs. And that's about it. Thanks very much. Right, I'm off. Bye-bye.